Hey everybody, how you doing? I think it's 1:30. I might be a half a minute early. Oh well, that's okay if I'm early, I guess. Um, so I'm already in the process of something. First of all those TV cooks that life is all pristine and fabulous and great, and you catch them and they're just lovely and their hair is done and everything. Well, this is real life, okay? I've had a really hectic week. Not a bad week, but a hectic week. So you're getting real life here. My hair's not done, but I do have makeup on, believe it. And I'm showered and my hair is clean. So, but what we're doing is real life has happened. And I did not have time to prepare a keto or a sugar-free or anything fancy. Oh, look, yes, I have an apron on too, nonetheless, because I have to go out after this and be seen in public at a grocery store, and I didn't want to be covered in flour. So what happened is I have vanilla yogurt that is going to go bad pretty soon. And so I got thinking, I got to do something. I got the Saturday show. What can I possibly do? So here, I thought about not doing the Saturday thing, but you know what? Real life does happen, and all of you need to know that everybody understands that. So here's real life. So I'm going to make scone dough. Now, in case you didn't know, Jay and I actually helped a friend and his family who used to run a bed and breakfast. They owned a bed and breakfast in Door County, Wisconsin. Well, Jay and I spent, 2-3 years helping these guys out. Hey, Linda, it's good to see you. So real life, check it out. My hair is not done, but it is clean. So anyway, back to the story. So Jay and I spent like 3 years helping a friend with their bed and breakfast. Well, during that time, I learned from a wonderful English gentleman how he made scones, and we would make these scones for our guests, every morning or something. So I'm going to show you that recipe. It's the one I'm going to show you is not low fat, it's not low sugar, it's not low carb, it's not gluten free. Now you can make it that way if you so choose. Now I have done this with light butter and it's okay. It doesn't really change anything. I have not done it with gluten-free flour, so I don't know how that might alter the texture a little bit. I have not done it with like monk fruit sweetener, because I think it's got a similar texture as sugar, so I think we could do it with monk fruit sweetener. Hey Lori, good to see you. So I think that we're doing scones. I'm gonna go through, yeah, they are good, aren't they? They're a little fattening. So I'm gonna go through the scone dough, but I think that you could do this with monk fruit sweetener because the texture is the same, and I don't think it would alter a whole lot of anything. Missy, love you, man. How you doing? So anyway, but yes, Jay and I helped run a bed and breakfast, and I was taught this scone recipe from this lovely English gentleman. And so this is what we're doing, because our scone dough is different than the one that you normally see. These scones are, the moisture comes from yogurt, and that makes a completely different scone than what you've probably tried, the dry bricky things that you've seen before that you have to load with butter and jam. These are not like that. This scone dough, you're getting me at the end of one, and then I'll start from the beginning at another one. Yeah, they are fabulous, aren't they? The particular one that I'm rolling right here, and we'll get Jay to see this a little bit better. Down just a little. There you go, perfect. This one is cranberry and white chocolate. I love it with cranberry and walnuts, but Jay doesn't like walnuts, and since I'm feeding him, I'm kind of, making it towards his like too, so that I don't eat them all. Because like I said, these particular ones are not low fat, and these are not low sugar. So what I'm doing here with my finished dough is I'm just making a log in plastic wrap, and then what you end up doing is you cut them in rounds. Now if you, hey David, welcome from Chicago. It's always good to see you. Hello Aunt Gail. So we're making scone dough, you guys, because real life happens, and I don't have my hair done, but I am sporting, of course, Rogue Male earrings because my sister is so talented, and an apron from my friend Sue McCabe, who's very talented as well. So here we are. I just roll this out into a log, and then what I'll do is I'll chill this down and then just make slices so they come out with cookies. But if you want your scones to have that traditional triangle-like look, you can cut the dough any way you want. It's just easier to handle if it's in a log, that's all. So I always roll them up like this. And then I have myself a little baby. So this one, like I said, is cranberry and white chocolate. All right, so now I'm gonna put it in the fridge because it is easier to slice if it's chilled. All right, so my scone dough, here's the secret recipe taught to me from a gentleman from Britain himself. All right, so it is 1 cup of sugar. Now, like I said, I think that this would be okay with monk fruit sweetener because it's got that same texture. I have not tried it with monk fruit sweetener. Now, I have tried cutting back on the sugar. He, of course, is pretty big, full cup of sugar. I go a scant cup of sugar. Just to at least get a little bit of it out. 1 tablespoon of baking powder. Now, the way he taught me is just like my grandmother taught me how to cook. This kind of tablespoon, a soup spoon, not the measuring tablespoon. And it is different. A soup spoon tablespoon is really about a tablespoon and a half if you measure it out than what a tablespoon measuring tablespoon is. So I found that interesting, but he used this, and this is what I have continued to use because that's the way he taught me. So a cup of sugar, a tablespoon like this of baking powder, and then it calls for 3 cups of flour, and then a cup of whatever flavoring you're going to put in there. Fruit and nuts, so like a 1/2 cup of walnuts and a 1/2 cup of cranberries. You of course can use zest. You can throw a little bit of orange zest in there, like with that cranberry walnut. Very good, and it will not affect anything measure-wise, formula-wise on the recipe. Of course, in today's world, you can get great cranberries that, David, I think you're just so wonderful. I adore you. You know that? You're just fun, and I love you. But in today's world, you can get flavored cranberries. You can get cranberries that taste like cherries. You can get cranberries that have an orange flavor to them. So when I would do this for guests at the bed and breakfast, I always got the orange flavored cranberries and then mixed it with walnuts because it was just so fabulously delicious. But a cup of sugar, tablespoon of baking powder, a cup of chocolate chips, or half chocolate chips and half some kind of dried fruit. The next one that I'm going to mix is actually, no, that's not the next one. Sorry, because I do this one with coffee in it, and I'm trying to conserve energy, not energy. Carson's what I love. I do love to embarrass you, David. Well, we would do steampunk stuff together. I tend to do that to you, don't I? No, the next one I'm going to do actually is dried apples, but not the hard, crunchy apple. More of a soft, chewy dried apple. And it has toffee chips. Craisins, yes, absolutely. And that's what I love. Whenever you're using fruit in this kind of scone, it has to be dried. Do not use fresh fruit. Do not use frozen fruit. You will have a big soupy mess, and actually what you'll end up with is like a buckle or a crumble or a almost, yeah, don't do that. It's dried fruit. So the craisins, raisin and almond is real good. But this has got toffee chips in it, and dried apples. That's the next one we're going to do. Because what I'm doing is I'm doing 3 batches of this for ourselves because I'm going to freeze it, because you can freeze these uncooked. Slice them and have them ready to go in the oven and freeze them. Because there's no egg in this. It's the flour, the sugar, the baking powder, the fruit or chocolate chips or the instant coffee that I'll mix in this other one. And then it's just the yogurt. That's it. You know, nuts or whatever, but that's it. There's nothing, there's no egg in it. So it is really easy to freeze. And a stick and a half of butter. Yes, a stick and a half. Now the yogurt, you can say 3 tablespoons. However, it's kind of depending on the humidity in your area. So and again, we're talking this kind of spoon, not a tablespoon measure spoon. So what I end up doing is I start mixing it, and I put like 2 heaping ones in to start with. And then as it mixes, once I get the consistency that I know is okay, then I call it quits and I roll it out just like you saw me starting here. Yeah, you missed it probably about 40 minutes ago. I was doing lentils with potatoes and carrots. So let's go over to the mixer. As you can see, like I said, I just did the cranberry and white chocolate, so I have, you know, butter residue in the thing. I'm just trying to conserve on, not energy like I said, but on dirty dishes, because I have plenty of dishes. You'll notice all my stuff was pre-measured. There we go. I'm pre-measured everything. I tend to do that because it saves time. Like I said, life happens. I'm all over. I was all over the place this week, and this weekend is no different. In case anybody doesn't know, my mother's been in the hospital, so it's been a lot of cat sitting and phone calls and all this other kind of stuff. So it's been crazy, and that's why we're in this wonderful situation of having scone dough that I'm going to put in the freezer, actually. All right, so I take the scant cup of sugar, and I put the baking powder in here just off the bat. That is not how my friend Paul taught me to do it. He ended up putting the baking powder in like flour, or in the flour portion of the addition. I get a little nervous because it doesn't seem to break up enough, and every once in a while you get clumps, and that's unpleasant, and I don't want to do that. So into the mixer, the cup of sugar and the tablespoon of, what kind of tablespoon? Soup spoon tablespoon, got it. And the stick and a half of butter. So in case you don't know that a stick and a half is, as you can tell on the thing, 12 tablespoons, which is really a cup, or it's 3/4 of a cup, basically, I believe is what it is. Hey, my sister-in-law is here. You guys, you should check Jill out. She's doing that fingernail stuff. Really some cool patterns out there. So, you know, you can see her here, and then you can hook up with her, and really fun stuff. Yes, I have a family of talented people. My sister-in-law does all kinds of crafty stuff and fingernail stuff. My sister makes amazing jewelry. My mother is a seamstress. And I feed them all. I just like to cook. So you do not have to have the butter on this. Does not have to be room temperature. Actually, it makes a fluffier scone if it's actually just kind of cold butter. It cuts into the sugar differently. This is room temperature because it just goes quicker. It does take longer if your butter is cold. That makes sense. So I'm just going to whip this up real quick. Also, if the butter is cold, it kind of makes a mess because it tends to shoot out more than if it's at room temperature. And of course, in real life, we scrape our bowls down. This is not TV. So we scrape and get everything fluffy and mixed together again, so there's no lumps. I've always been intrigued watching people on TV or even in real life. If a group of you get together and you're doing stuff, it's always painful to watch. Like if Jay helps me in the kitchen, it's painful to watch him try to scrape a bowl. I'm like, Just give me the bowl. I just want to scrape it. Just do it like this. All right, it's all incorporated. The butter is nice. See, the KitchenAid makes the butter nice and fluffy and yummy. So it's creamy. And see, that baking powder is getting extra mixing bean at this point in the game as opposed to putting it in with the flour. So in our 1 cup of sugar, our tablespoon of baking powder, and our stick and a half of butter goes 3 cups of flour. And I just put it in all at once because at this point in the game, we're going to mix this until it's a crumbly texture. Again, we're talking 3 cups of flour into, just this 1 cup of sugar, which is an odd proportion for any other kind of baking that you would do. Normally it's like almost even or closer, but this being 3 cups. And it's going to be like cornmeal. It's going to be real fine textured. Again, when it bakes then, because of the fine texture, it really raises. So I just always like to, I'm a scraper. I like to scrape and make sure that bottom is incorporated. All right. Oh, and it's pretty good. Jay, can you get them a little bit closer here? See what I mean? It's just real fine. And that's what we're looking for at this point, because now what we do is we're going to, thank you Jay for doing that, we're going to start the yogurt. Now, you can use any kind of yogurt. I would not recommend fruit in yogurt, like strawberry yogurt that's actually got fruit in it. I would kind of stay away from that again because it can alter the baking, the texture. So the yogurt that I have that was going to be going bad in another week is vanilla, just regular Yoplait yogurt. And it's nothing fancy, but it is vanilla flavored. I tend to use vanilla flavor because it adds more flavor. I've done it with plain yogurt, works just fine. I've done it with Greek yogurt, works great with Greek yogurt. So again, if you're looking to alter this, by using maybe half sugar and half monk fruit sugar, if you do a lighter butter or just keep the butter, if you do half gluten-free flour and half regular flour, and if you do do the Greek yogurt and there's no additional sugar in there. This vanilla does have a little bit of extra sugar. Again, like I said at the beginning, that's also why I use a scant cup of sugar, because I know there's a little bit of sweetener in the yogurt. But I love vanilla. I use vanilla because I don't buy yogurt just to make scone dough. I use it for life. With the granola that we made a couple weeks ago, yeah, that's what I love to do. So before I even start mixing, I give it 2 good heaping tablespoons, maybe a little bit more, and I get it going. Now notice I haven't put the fruit in yet. I like to put the fruit in right before it all comes together so it doesn't break up like the chocolate chips or the nuts too much, so you've got a good thing. See, and it's not coming, it will all of a sudden come together on you. It's still way too dry, so that 2 tablespoons is definitely not enough. Again, real life, you scrape your carton out. Not like TV. I'm definitely not a TV chef. People don't do my prep, I do my own prep. I scrape out my containers, my bowls, all that kind of fun stuff. So how's everybody's summer starting? Supposedly we're getting released in Wisconsin. And sometimes things do not open, so you make them open. Like that. Just like that. And we'll deal with making that pretty later. Alright, so back to yogurt adding. But at least you know how to good seal on the yogurt, right? Alright, so here we go. Now that is probably 4 really good tablespoons. So we're going. Nathan, welcome. I'm sorry I don't have my hair done for you. I apologize, but I am wearing some pretty cool earrings. See, did you notice how the mixer started to slow down? That is because it's coming together. And at that point, we're going to add our flavoring stuff. We're making scone dough. I used to run a bed and breakfast, so I learned this recipe from an Englishman. So the scone dough is coming together. It's almost there. We may have to add a little bit more yogurt. So this is a half a cup of dried apples that I cut up with a knife and a half a cup of toffee chips. Yes, that is full sugar. I apologize, but it is still really yummy, and this is life, and I need to get this before anything goes bad. All right, so we got that in there, and actually, I'm not gonna add any more yogurt. And see how things happen? Things fly out of the bowl and land on the floor. That's life. And I am kind of a messy cook. I guess that's putting it mildly. Okay, so see how we went from that real fine mill to like it's coming together, it's holding itself. So we're going with this. This is going to be our scone dough, even though there's a little bit of dry on the bottom. And that happens every once in a while. And when that happens, sometimes what I do is I just put like a dollop of moisture on there, and then we're going to go over here and we're going to roll this scone dough out. And then we'll talk about the baking, and I will probably let you guys go. So here we have plastic wrap down. Now I'm going to get that dried flour that's on the bottom. And again, just like any other baking, you don't want to over mix it, but sometimes you got to get in there and get it folded together. All right. So again, you can make this scone dough a little bit lesser on the sugar, lesser on the fat. You can alter it, make it lighter on the gluten. I've just never done it completely gluten-free, and I've never done it completely sugar-free. So, see that little bit of dry there? We're just going to fold that up and fold it around. And we're just going to make it do what we want it to. I think that's why I like cooking, because I can make things do what I want it to do, unlike real life. It just doesn't work in real life. Lisa, my darling, how are you? It's good to see you. Yes, I do actually do things where people see me. Lisa's my coworker. She's fabulous. Great sense of humor. The woman is hysterically funny. But for work, I haven't been doing the video aspect of our conference calls, and everybody gives me a hard time about that. So that's why I'm teasing her about that. So we're making scones today, Lisa, and Lisa has had my scones. And of course, obviously, I can't bring food into work anymore, right? All our new laws and regulations, we'll see how that all goes. But this particular one here is apple and toffee. And see, I'm just forming it into a log. Again, I slice them like cookies. I also make them small. I'll take a half of one of these and roll them out even longer and make mini scones. I've done that for parties that we've catered and different things, and that's always real fun. All right, so I'm going to roll this up nice and tight. I would believe that's a piece of apple, but it looks like a burnt apple, so I'm going to throw it away. Well, it's burnt apple because these have to be cooked. All right, so I just make it nice, tight, round like that. Again, they slice best when they're chilled. That butter sets back up, and you can slice them. I normally go a knuckle, 1 knuckle digit, and do that, and then slice it, and then do that and slice it. And then, of course, if you want it to be more scone-like, slice that in half. It gives you a smaller one, but it's got a little bit more of a traditional shape to it. Or just slice them in triangles if that's what you want. But again, it slices easier once they're chilled. All right, so ta-da, a baby apple and toffee. All right, so let's talk about baking them. Now, when you bake these 350, 30 to 40 minutes, they take a long time, even though there's no egg in there, because normally when I cut them, they're thicker, so they take a while to cook. But I would watch them. Again, you know your oven, you know how cookies bake for you. So, you know, if you want to knock it down, if it's running hot, knock it down to like 325. Check them, because you want them to be puffy and set. You know, you don't want to have them jiggly. And if you touch them, you don't want your finger just to go all the way to the bottom. You want it to have a little bit of resistance there. When you before you put them in the oven, it's real fun to take a little bit more of that yogurt and kind of brush it on the top of the scone, and then sprinkle the top with like raw sugar or the sugar and the natural and the raw, or turbinado sugar, or some of that real fancy bigger chunked sugar. And when you bake it, then it's got this really fun, like you went to the bakery and got
little pieces of nuts for those who...
yeah, if you like nuts, but finely chopped nuts, this does wonderful. I wouldn't put the toffee on there, like with our toffee apple that we just did, because the toffee will melt, and it still looks okay, I've done it, but it doesn't have that polished look to it. But bake them, check them, see how they're doing. They're best when they're warm. They are fabulous when they're warm. They're okay when they're cold, you know, especially when you got like coffee or tea or hot apple cider or hot chocolate. But they are best warm out of the oven. They are really good, but not hot out of the oven, because you're going to burn yourself. Trust me, especially with all that little extra sugar on top. It could really burn yourself. But now look, what I'm going to do here in about 20 minutes is I'm going to take those out of the fridge, and I'm going to slice them in my round disc. I'm going to wrap those round discs in this wax type paper, and I'm going to put them in a Ziploc bag and put them in the freezer. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to use them then. When I go to use them, I'm just going to take them out of the freezer. You can put them in the fridge and they can unthaw, and then you can go ahead and bake them. But you can also bake them straight out of the freezer. Again, if you do straight out of the freezer, I would set your oven about 325 and watch them, because obviously they're frozen, they're going to take a while. If you cut them thinner so that they're more cookie-like, obviously check them at 20 minutes just to be safe, so you're not having a hard puck. You can, if you bake up the whole thing, like at the B&B, we would do the dough overnight. We would sit, and then the next morning we would slice it and bake it for the clients. But you can bake them straight off. They don't have to sit either. They're just easier to cut when they sit. But if you do bake a whole bunch up and the next morning you're like, man, I really want that, and you take a bite and you're like, it is not the same without it being warm, you can microwave them to get them the warm, fluffier texture than what they are at room temperature. Just don't microwave them very long, because you will make a hockey puck, which even with the greatest sauce, hockey pucks still are not pleasant to eat. So with that, I'm probably gonna, parchment paper or dry wax paper works either way. If you use wax paper, like I'm gonna end up with these, do not bake them on that paper. If you use parchment paper, you can actually just unroll it on the parchment paper and throw it in the oven with the parchment paper on a cookie sheet. But don't do that if you're using wax paper. That will not be pleasant, and you really will have a hockey puck. Won't bounce the same, but it will taste the same, because wax paper does have wax, and it will melt. Great tip though, Gail. Thank you, Aunt Gail, for bringing that up. So with that, you guys have a great Saturday. I'm going to do, you want to hear about the coffee one, don't you? Okay. So the one I'm going to make after we leave is a half toffee chip, half chocolate chip So that's 1 cup of, half a cup of toffee chips and a half a cup of chocolate chips. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of instant coffee to the flour. And that makes this mocha coffee flavored dough with the chocolate chips and the toffee, and it actually was one of the most popular flavors when we did the BnB was the chocolate mocha. This whole mocha coffee, yeah. And I really like to do it with half white chocolate chips, half milk chocolate chips with the coffee dough. And I think that white chocolate even adds more of a, I don't know, panazz to it, if you will. Very fun, very cool. But have some fun with it, any kind of flavors. And apricot, if you like those, with walnuts is very good, raisin, and almond, of course. But any kind of dried fruit, remember, dried fruit. And you don't want the crunchy dry fruit, you want more of the soft, chewier dry fruit. You will be highly disappointed if you use fresh or frozen, because it's not gonna work. Yes, I am speaking from a little bit of experience. So everybody, you have a great day. Thank you so much for understanding how life happens, and this is where we're at. So I'm going to use up some more of that yogurt, get these in the freezer, and then I have to go take care of my mom's cat for a little while. She needs some love and attention, just like we all do. And then I'm actually going to come home and make a sweet potato cheesecake, which I will share with you guys if it comes out. Well, I might share it if it doesn't come out too, so that you guys know never to use that recipe that I found for it. But you have a great weekend. I love you, and go enjoy well, it looks kind of sunny out there. It looks a little windy, but at 6 o'clock this morning, it wasn't that windy. So, but have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.